What if the reason life feels so heavy isn't because it's unfair, but because you've been avoiding the hard parts instead of facing them? Most people want happiness without responsibility, growth without discomfort, and peace without effort. But deep down, we all know that real strength, real meaning, and real freedom don't come from taking the easy way out. They come from choosing the difficult path, the one that challenges you, stretches you, and forces you to grow. Welcome to Books Bell. Today we're diving into the book The Road Less Traveled, written by M. Scott Peck, a book that begins with one of the most honest truths ever written. Life is difficult. And instead of sugarcoating that reality, this book explains why accepting that truth is the first step toward a meaningful, disciplined, and fulfilled life. In this video, you'll learn why discipline is the foundation of growth, how emotional maturity is built through responsibility, why love is an action and not a feeling, and how spiritual growth begins when you stop running from discomfort and start facing yourself honestly. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid pain. They distract themselves, blame others, or look for shortcuts. But pain avoided doesn't disappear, it waits, and over time, it grows heavier. The book explains that life becomes easier only when you accept that it's difficult. The moment you stop expecting life to be easy, you stop feeling cheated by it, you stop complaining, you stop asking, "Why me?" and instead, you start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That shift alone changes everything. Discipline is the first major idea explored, and it's not about punishment or rigid control. Discipline is about self-respect. It's the ability to delay gratification, to tolerate discomfort today so you don't suffer more tomorrow. It's choosing long-term peace over short-term pleasure. Whether it's finishing what you start, having difficult conversations, or taking responsibility for your actions, discipline is what separates people who grow from people who stay stuck. Without discipline, talent fades, relationships fail, and potential dies quietly. Avoiding responsibility is one of the biggest reasons people feel powerless. When you blame circumstances, parents, partners, or society, you give away your control. Responsibility, on the other hand, gives you power. The book emphasizes that mental and emotional health begin the moment you accept full responsibility for your life. That doesn't mean everything is your fault, but it does mean everything is your responsibility. And that mindset builds strength instead of resentment. Another powerful insight is about truth. Growth requires honesty, especially with yourself. Many people lie, not just to others, but internally. They deny their weaknesses, justify their mistakes, and avoid looking at who they really are. But real growth demands courage, the courage to face reality as it is, not as you wish it were. When you confront reality as it is, you gain clarity. And clarity leads to better decisions, stronger boundaries, and healthier relationships. The book also challenges common misunderstandings about love. Love is not a feeling you fall into, it's a commitment you choose. Feelings come and go, but love is shown through effort, patience, and responsibility. It's about nurturing another person's growth as well as your own. Real love requires work. It requires honesty. It requires discipline. And without those, what people often call love is just attachment, dependency, or fear of being alone. Emotional maturity means knowing the difference between what you feel and how you act. You don't have to obey every emotion. Anger doesn't have to turn into cruelty. Fear doesn't have to become avoidance. Sadness doesn't have to become self-pity. When you develop emotional discipline, you learn to respond instead of react. You stop being controlled by your moods and start living intentionally. One of the most important lessons in the book is about delayed gratification. In a world obsessed with instant results, this idea feels uncomfortable. But anything meaningful, career success, deep relationships, inner peace, takes time. When you resist the urge to quit at the first sign of discomfort, you build confidence. Every time you choose patience over impulse, you strengthen your character. The book also explores how many psychological problems come from avoiding pain rather than facing it. People often numb themselves with distractions, addictions, or unhealthy patterns. But healing begins when you stop running. When you sit with discomfort instead of escaping it, you learn from it. Pain becomes a teacher instead of an enemy. Spiritual growth is another central theme, but it's presented in a grounded, practical way. Spirituality here isn't about blind belief, it's about awareness, humility, and growth. It's about recognizing that you're not the center of the universe, and that growth often requires surrendering ego. When you let go of the need to control everything, life starts to feel more aligned. The book also talks about the danger of avoiding change. Growth requires transformation, and transformation often feels like loss. You outgrow old identities, old beliefs, and sometimes even old relationships. That can feel scary, but staying the same out of fear slowly drains your life of meaning. The road less traveled is difficult because it demands change, but it's also the road that leads to depth, wisdom, and self-respect. Many people confuse comfort with happiness, but comfort without growth leads to emptiness. The book reminds us that fulfillment comes from meaning, not ease, from effort, not avoidance, from choosing what's right, not what's easy. When you take ownership of your life, embrace discipline, and commit to growth, something powerful happens. You begin to trust yourself. That trust becomes the foundation of confidence, not loud confidence, not ego-driven confidence, but quiet confidence, the kind that comes from knowing you can handle difficulty, knowing you won't run when things get tough, knowing you're capable of growth. The road less traveled isn't glamorous, it doesn't offer instant rewards, but it offers something far more valuable: integrity. When your actions align with your values, life feels meaningful even when it's hard. You stop needing constant validation, you stop chasing approval, you start building a life you respect. And here's the truth most people avoid: growth is painful, but staying the same is worse. The pain of discipline fades, the pain of regret doesn't. Every time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, you're shaping your future self. You're building strength, wisdom, and resilience. This book doesn't promise an easy life, it promises a real one. A life where you face yourself honestly, take responsibility, and grow through challenge. And that's the kind of life that leads to peace, not because it's perfect, because it's authentic. So as you move forward, remember this: the easy path feels safe, but it keeps you small. The difficult path feels scary, but it sets you free. The road less traveled is not for the fearless, it's for the courageous, for those willing to do the work, tell the truth, and grow up emotionally. Choose discipline over avoidance. Choose responsibility over blame. Choose growth over comfort. Because in the long run, the harder path is the one that leads to clarity, strength, and a life you don't need to escape from.